is it possible for us to actually draw the lines and find that balance somewhere and separate these issues?
Well, it's difficult to draw the line. The reason is because there are people who are saddled with the responsibility of drawing these lines. And I'm talking about, because in every society, there must be umpires. There must be people whose responsibility is to inspect what goes on. The human nature naturally does not want conformity. If there's anything the human nature doesn't want, is actually to obey rules and regulations. He wants to be free. In other climes where people actually stick to the rules, it's not because they're better than us, it's because it's being enforced. So there are some level of enforcement that says whether you like it or not, you must toe the line. Now, the point is, Nigerians, we are naturally some set of lawless set of people. We actually don't like to, a lot of times we impose some difficulties on ourselves and, turn around, say, oh, is this government? Of course, governments has their own faults because it's about enforcement, like I mentioned. But a lot of times, who is the government? Me and you still form part of the government, So if me and you is given the responsibility of saying, okay, make sure that this and that is actually complied with. Maybe let's take the issue of fertilizer, for instance.
But
the government has done its part.
You say this, and it seems as though we already have some kind of price regulatory mechanism or framework to actually checkmate some of these things. Do we actually have it?
Yeah, because it might not be in one sum. Like you have them in different strata, in different categories. Like I was trying to give you an example of a fertilizer, for instance, because these are factors that contribute to the production in the long run, or how it's being distributed, or how it's being sold. Is that if the government actually supplied fertilizers, it's now left to the government staff that are saddled with the responsibility of distributing it. Some persons decide to hoard it so they can sell it at exorbitant prices. Some decide to say, you need to grease my palms before this gets to you. You understand? So these are factors, because the farmer who is actually at the receiving end is calculating how much it cost him in the long run, even though the government feels we have subsidized these things, but it's not coming at the subsidy rate. So the total sum of the production of the farm produce goes into, because I need to calculate that into how much I spend in getting the fertilizer itself into that. So in essence is that drawing a line is becoming a very difficult task, because at each level where Nigerians are given responsibility, everybody is trying to cut corners. You understand? Then coming to the point where we begin to see, okay, let's take transportation, for instance. Nigerians cannot compete favorably with their own counterparts in maybe not neighboring countries, because the cost of transportation a lot of times is actually something else. You understand? Let's come to production as well. How many manufacturing companies do we have in Nigeria? Why can't they be here anymore? Because they need to fold up. There's no electricity. So these are some of the factors that, because if I'm a manufacturer and I say, okay, I want to go into tomato paste, for instance, and I say I got a vast land in Nasarawa where we're farming tomatoes, but then the company that we just set up cannot function any longer because the cost of diesel, because of lack of electricity, is actually having a very high toll on us. So we're moving the company to Ghana, where electricity is stable. But how much do you need to spend to transport this tomato that is being farmed here in Nasarawa to Ghana before, after production, you bring it back in here? These are food items we're talking about. So, in the long run, you find out that all these things have multiplier effect across board. And these are some of the little issues that are actually coming together at the top, because when you now say, oh, so how much is a tin of tomato now in the market? You now look at it that, so who is producing it in Nigeria? What are those factors that will make these things to skyrocket? Because 2 months ago, I just bought it at X amount. Why is it this amount today? You understand? So there are quite a lot of issues around it that both the government is not helping matters, and the people, when you say government, we ourselves who are working as the agents of the government are also making things difficult.
Okay, but should we really be worried about, food prices now? Because some would actually say that, it's been overtaken by financial crisis.
It should be a thing of worry. It should be a thing of worry in the sense that, you see, in other climes, the government try as much as they can to see that food is about the cheapest thing you can ever. You see, homeless people will tell you they're not hungry. It's just that they don't have a house. You understand? In some climes, you have maybe $1 restaurant where you can enter with just $1 in America. You can eat as much as you can eat from morning till evening, as much as you want. People can host you in other climes without having any issues with feeding you because it's about the cheapest thing. It should be a source of worry, because when a man is hungry, then he becomes wild. To tame him not to go into criminality becomes a difficult thing. So when hunger is taken care of, then whatever you're trying to sermonize into the areas of people begins to sink in. Other than when people are hungry, they become very, very, brutish. They become, a very terrible set of human beings. They don't want to listen. Lawlessness prevail because, you see, someone is telling you, but I've not eaten. And that's why electioneering is just around the corner. A people who are hungry, who you are telling not to go and collect peanuts from politicians. What's the alternative that you've provided? You're talking about, oh, don't mortgage your future. But he's talking about, I even want to see tomorrow. I have not eaten for the past 2 days.
So it's
don't
about
tell me
survival first.
It's about survival first. Don't tell me about that future because it's not guaranteed. But I'm hungry now. I'm given 2,000 naira to go vote. I need to eat. So really, it should be one of the major sources of concern.
Well, I mean, there's quite a lot, to this, but let me just pick one also that's also, some have attributed as one of the factors responsible for this inflation. The issues of the dollar-naira exchange, it's also one of the issues. A lot of times we have to import, some of the things that farm inputs that we use, fertilizer and the rest of them. So to what extent has this affected our production? And I mean, the central bank is doing things already, but what's your assessment of the effort of central bank to be able to make the dollar available for, manufacturers to be able to import some of these things so that at the end of the day, the cost of production is maintained at a very minimal level?
Yeah, that's a very funny one because it's funny in the sense that there was a time when we started noticing how the dollar was rising by the day. Whatever it is, if you touch groundnut in the market, they tell you if dollar is high, So it was more or less like a balance, a local balance in Nigeria, including people who don't know what the dollar is. Whatever you touch, they say, oh, don't you know the dollar is high now, and stuff like that. But you see, the major thing is that the central bank seems to be helpless at this time or over time. They have brought out so many different kind of policies to say, okay, we're not going to sell dollar to anybody. If you're traveling, you're going to come to the bank with your tickets, your round trip tickets, and the dollar